Support comes from Troy University's Trojan Cafe, offering handcrafted Starbucks beverages and a wide assortment of meal and snack options. Located on Troy University's Montgomery campus, across from the Rosa Parks Library and Museum.
From Troy Public Radio, this is In Focus, and I'm Carolyn Hutchison. Because of concerns over the increasing numbers of cases of the Cyclospora intestinal parasite, we asked Andy Tipton, Food Safety Director at the Alabama Department of Agriculture and Industries, to join us today with his advice on how to avoid it. Andy Tipton, thank you so much for joining us here at Troy Public Radio.
Sure, thank you.
What can you tell us about this parasite that's found in food?
We had put an advisory out with the Cyclospora issue that's going on nationwide and CDC. Of course, that comes back to our food safety division here. And those states that are having problems, those are clusters. But it was simply an advisory to let folks in Alabama know that during this season with fruits and vegetables, make sure that you properly handle the food just because there may be a chance. So I hate it for the folks up in Michigan and New York. Michigan seems to be the epicenter for the issue. They have not traced that back. I know this morning there was a couple of articles that came back to our office here that indicated there may have been a restaurant, but officially it has not been traced back to one particular source. So there was just an advisory to make sure that you handle fruits, vegetables, produce properly during this season.
How do you do that as a consumer? I mean, are you talking about washing produce with tap water? Do you need to add anything for purification? What?
Well, we're not going to recommend any mixtures, but make sure that you do running water, wash the produce maybe a little bit longer than you have in the past. But make sure that it's completely covered. Don't let it just soak in water. It needs to be under running water. Wash your hands good before serving, using, eating. And that's about all that we would have to offer on that side of it. There's no magic pill that we can say that it needs to be handled this way. But the recommendation of CDC is wash under running water, and then they recommend cooking to 159 is where the previous recommendation today, it looks like 176. So you're not going to enjoy many fruits cooked to that temperature. But again, our area, our state, we have avoided any clusters of this parasite to this point. And I think it's fair to say that this happens every year. Cyclospora shows up every year from place to place, but the issue this year is the clusters. And when you have clusters that take place that go back from the doctor's office to public health to CDC, that's when you start seeing things on national news.
And in the national news, what is the picture?
Well, currently the most recent information we have from CDC is there's thousands of cases over 34 states in the U.S., with Michigan being the epicenter for the number of cases. And that's where the clusters are showing up, and that's what the CDC picks up on.
What kind of parasite is this?
Well, it is a parasite that primarily lives in the feces of humans. So as far as wildlife transfer, that hasn't been determined. So everything that we see on that is a human picks that up in affected fruit, food, produce, or water. It cannot be transferred human to human. So picked up, matures, may take 1 to 2 weeks to mature within the system. So you could pick it up and take several days before it would show up any of these issues that are so apparent, and some of those are watery diarrhea. Sometimes you see explosive diarrhea. Anytime I hear or see something written about explosive diarrhea, I want to avoid that. So fatigue, and there's a list of several different symptoms that go along with that. And the numbers that they have with CDC from doctor's office through public health are pretty good numbers, but there are still people out there that don't get tested or just don't go to the doctor and try to suffer their way through these things. So numbers may be skewed just a little bit on the low side, but the important part to know about this is when you have clusters in particular areas, then there is an issue with something going on, not just the normal run-of-the-mill issues that you always have this that'll show up, and I think we may have 2 counties in Alabama right now, but those are not clusters. It just happens to be some of those doctors' office decided to test for that, and they picked it up.
I noticed in a press release that Ag and Industry sent out that you're advising to separate the fresh produce from raw meat, poultry, seafood, and other raw foods. They have their own contaminants, right?
Right, and same reason, cross-contamination.
That goes back to your advice to wash your hands, soap and water, and do a thorough job.
Well, that's correct.
Let me ask you about the Food Safety Modernization Act. How does that work in Alabama?
Well, in particular to this subject is the produce safety rule, which is managed through our food safety division here. We have a team of people that actually go to the farms and go through the process of teaching the folks about how to handle, clean, sanitize all the different areas that microbiologicals may come in contact with the food. We have an education and outreach team that goes out, teaches the farmers and those working on the farm. Our produce safety team, during those inspections, there'll be a checklist that they go through and make sure that those farms in Alabama are following the procedures to maintain a clean product or do the best job they possibly can to maintain a clean product for the consumer.
How does this summer compare to previous summers as far as food safety in Alabama?
It's going to be the same. And that advisory didn't mean to scare anyone at all. It was just, everybody is seeing that on the news, and we felt like that would be a good time to put an advisory out just to reinforce the cleaning of the produce during this season.
So it sounds like from your recommendation, we all need to get a food thermometer if we don't have one and monitor the temperature up to what degrees?
Well, it's 159 up to 176, but enjoying fruits and produce during this time of year, cooking is going to be the way to know that you kill this parasite. I think the produce that we receive in Alabama from Alabama producers go through this process with our produce safety team, and they know how to handle their product. It should be as clean as it possibly can before it reaches our consumers. Under FSMA that became a law in 2011, we've been working with this produce safety rule for about 11 years now. So our team has a good relationship with a producer in Alabama, and the producers are aware, and there is no producer that wants to put out a contaminated product. So they follow these guidelines, the checklist that our team puts out there, and the training that they present. They take that to heart, and our producers do a really good job.
I think it's a good idea to refer the listeners to your website, and that is agi.alabama.gov. And under news is a press release about what to do to keep your food clean. And that way they can have a copy of your recommendations.
Sure. And there's a link in there going back to CDC, so you can keep up with the progress of what they're doing as well.
And when you're thinking about fruits, this is a good time to try fruit pies and cooking fruit, grilling fruit, whatever.
Again, that is the number one way to avoid coming in contact with this parasite.
Andy Tipton, is there anything else you want your listeners to know?
This agency is on top of the food safety side, and we take that very serious. And our produce safety team, they're out today doing inspections. So throughout the season, there's somebody out there working for you to make sure we have a safe food supply in Alabama.
There's nothing more important, is there?
Not in my opinion.
I want to thank you and your team's effort to keep the food supply safe. Thank you so much for getting us up to date on what we can share with the listeners.
Well, thank you for having us.
Andy Tipton joined us as Food Safety Director at the Alabama Department of Agriculture and Industries. More information about the Cyclospora food parasite and how to avoid it can be found at the agi.alabama.gov website. Thanks for joining us today for In Focus, which is a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Carolyn Hutchison, and this is listener-supported Troy Public Radio.